So that's kind of the worst of both worlds. You would really think that ripping a sweater back when you've gotten to this point would be really demotivating. It has actually been the most motivating part of this whole thing. For once, I'm going to make a deadline knit where I won't have to stress as much. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Olga and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, current projects, finished projects, planned projects. Sometimes I talk a bit about all of my yarn. I do love yarn. Just anything that pops into my head while we sit here and chat. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me this week. It has been a bit of a chaotic week in terms of knitting, at least in my head. I have had a couple of projects that just haven't gone the way I had hoped they would or the way I wanted to, and also at the same time I did get yarn last week and I just want to cast on for everything all at the same time, and I also don't have a plan for anything, so I have been trying to figure out what to do from here, how to move on with my kind of failed projects, and how to make them the way I want them to, and also where to go from here in terms of what I want to actually cast on next. But I feel like I have started to land in a few of my choices. I have started to figure out what to do with my kind of failed projects, so I'm excited to talk about all of that. But before we get into it, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm wearing. And I am on a bit of a mission to manifest summer. I am really weather sick. That's at least what we call it here in Norway. We did go traveling last week, visited family, and on the west coast and in the south of Norway where we visited family, it was what we here would call summer. It was all of the trees had blossomed, there were flowers, there were everything, and then we got back here and it's barely spring. The grass is still just about getting green here, so I am weather sick. I'm trying to manifest the start of summer as hard as I can, and one way I'm doing that is that I am wearing my summer knits, and I don't know if everyone would count this sweater as a summer knit. This is the Olga sweater, but I knitted last summer. That's part of the reason why it is a summer sweater for me. Here it is. Let me show you the shoulder detail. It is a sweater I've used a lot all through the year because it does work for all weather because it is a wool sweater, but the reality is that here, even in summer, it is weather all year round. So if you're interested in sweater weather and using all of your sweaters a lot, this would be the perfect place. But I count this as a summer sweater more than my other sweaters because it is a tiny bit more cropped, just a couple of centimeters. It hits me a bit higher than my other sweaters, and that coupled with the fact that it is quite oversized makes it really airy and really easy to use during the summer as well without getting overheated. And the main thing that makes this a summer sweater for me is the colors. There is something with tiny stripes and the combination of white and red together as well that is just so summery to me. It reminds me of fresh strawberries with cream, and it's just really summery to me. I don't know why, but this is kind of a nostalgic summer feeling. I must have seen a lot of this as a child during summer maybe, but I love this for summer. Usually I think red is quite like a heavy color, so it's more wintry, more for like the dark times of year, but paired with white I really think it gives summer vibe. So I'm wearing this, which is still warm enough to make it wearable right now, and trying to manifest summer. This is the Olga sweater, if I didn't say, and I knit mine in Sandnes Smart, which was my first time using Smart for a big garment. I don't know if it was my first time using Smart at all. It might have been on my needles before, but not in a way where I could really tell how I feel about it. I've probably made gifts and then I don't really know how it wears after the fact, or I've made small accessories and that's not really the same. So this was my first time making a sweater, and I don't think I'd ever make myself a sweater again in Sandnes Garn Smart. Sandnes Garn Smart is really close to Drops Charisma, and I have had the same experience with that. Also, when I knit a sweater in Charisma for my husband, I don't really like the Charisma and Smart in huge sweaters. I do have a hat, however, in Sandnes Garn Smart that I love. It's perfect, so it really just depends on the project. But for this one big plus is that it hasn't felted a lot, and also with these stripes being so contrasting, I think it's good that the Sandnes Garn Smart is superwash treated, because this didn't bleed when I washed it in the washing machine. So that is a plus, have to give that to the yarn. Same with the Drops Charisma, that's also superwash. But when I'm choosing superwash, I do want it to be soft, and the Sandnes Garn Smart and the Charisma just isn't that. I really enjoy superwash for merino wools, which I use for like kids clothing. I think then superwash is really great, but this one is 100% wool, so it isn't really soft at all. It feels like wool just superwashed, so it's not soft, and then it also can't split splice, so that's kind of the worst of both worlds. I do really enjoy a good wool sweater, but this doesn't feel as woolly as my 100% wool sweaters that isn't superwashed, and then I also couldn't split splice when doing this, so that does count against this for me. And I don't know, but there is just something when wearing it that isn't my favorite. I can't quite put a finger on it, but I know it has been the same with the Charisma. I think that there is something with superwash treated wool that makes it a bit less warm. I have also noticed this with superwash mittens I've made for my son. They get much more wet and they don't. One huge thing about wool is that it still keeps you warm even when wet, and I've noticed that superwash wool doesn't really do that, and same with this, it isn't as warm as a non-superwash sweater would be, which is great since this is something I count as a summer sweater, and I have used this a lot and I do love it. So I'm not saying that I don't love this sweater, it's just that I wouldn't choose this yarn for another sweater, because now I already have a summer sweater, so I don't need another in wool yarn. So that's just my experience with both the Sandnes Garn Smart and the Charisma. I don't know if you have experienced the same, or if maybe you've experienced the same and therefore feel exactly opposite of me. But I do still love both Smart and Charisma. I just don't prefer it for adult sweaters, so I'm going to try to keep that in mind moving forwards with how I purchase yarn and the quantities I get it in. I have loved Charisma for kids sweaters though, that I still want to be like rustic feeling, but they also can get dirty and I can just wash them really simply. So it is just that for adult sweaters it's not my preference. But that's enough of me babbling on about this sweater and yarn preference, and let's get into what I've been knitting on this week. And I think we'll start with my biggest fail of the week, and the fail of this was really made a couple of weeks ago, and that is the zipper sweater Junior. This is the regular version, not the light version, and I did cast this on, I think, during Easter or right before Easter. I had this with me during my Easter trip, at least, so I know I was working on it during that time. But I realized then, I think I said it in a podcast then as well, that the zipper sweater was looking super tiny. The yoke depth wasn't right at all when I measured it right next to other sweaters in smaller sizes. This was barely that size, and I'm knitting in size 6 to 7 years, so when it looked the same size as a sweater in 3 to 4 years, I knew something was up, so I talked about it then and kind of stopped working on it because I got really just discouraged. I didn't want to work on something that wouldn't fit, because 3 to 4 years is a size that he's growing out of now. This is for my son, so I just stopped working. But luckily I have a follower that messaged me over on Instagram and let me know that they have an updated pattern that I just didn't have. I got this pattern as a Christmas gift from my friend, so I didn't get any emails when the pattern was updated. But luckily I managed to get my hands on the new pattern this week. And I read through it and I noticed, as I had been warned, that there was a really huge had been a really huge change to the pattern. In the color wasn't that big of a difference. I think it was like 6 stitches, 4 stitches, something, not that much, but still a lot on 4mm needles. With that few stitches already, a huge like percentile of that. And then I looked through the increases and everything, and at the end of the increases I think the difference was 30 stitches or something, which is a lot when you have like 200 stitches all in all. So I decided to just rip it all back. I thought I could just rip a little bit back and tricks and mix to make the right numbers, but I decided that no, I don't want to use any brain power on that. I'm just going to rip it all back, and I had already separated for sleeves on the last version, so it was a lot to rip back, but I just went for it. I didn't want to regret anything after the sweater was done, so rip that all back. I think that was 2 or 3 skeins worth of ripping back, and then I started knitting it back up. And I have knit on this a lot because I got a lot of motivation. First I wanted to knit up all of what was frogged, and then I wanted to get to the point where you separated for sleeves, and then I noticed how quickly it was going by, so I have been knitting and I've gotten really far. I'm much further along now than I was when I ripped back, and I did all of that yesterday. So safe to say the zipper sweater is a really great project because it moves really quickly, and it is looking tons better now. The yoke and the body is looking more proportional. Still this is going to get blocked, so it will add a little bit of length here, and you can see you can see a difference from this is yarn just directly from the skein. You can see how much more even that is, and this, like here goes the line where I was working with unraveled yarn. I don't think it looks that uneven compared to how uneven the yarn was, because the yarn was really uneven after I had just unraveled it, but I didn't want to spend any more time like steaming it, evening it out. I thought this is going to be fixed when I block the whole thing, and I don't think you can see a huge difference from further away, so I definitely think that that's something that will even out when it's washed. But I'm so thankful I spoke about the issue on the podcast, so I got the tip that there was a new pattern, because 30 stitches is a huge difference, and now I think this will actually be wearable, hopefully for as long as I had imagined it. So here it is. I still have to do like the inside, everything, the zipper. Luckily I am obsessed with zipper sweaters, so I had one time, I think years ago now, where I just bought so many of the Petiteknit zippers. I think I still have 3 left, so after this I still have 2 left, so I'm good to go for a while longer to knit zipper sweaters, but I am starting to run out of zippers. But I would usually do zippers at about this time, because I know leaving it for last isn't the best for me, because I am a procrastinator at heart. But also, since this has already given me so much grief, I just want to finish it, see that it has the right proportions before I start using all of my time to sew in a zipper. So I think with this I am actually going to do it in a bit different order than I usually do. Usually I would do zipper, then sleeves, and then finish the body, but for this I think I'm going to finish the body, do the sleeves, and then do all of the zipper stuff at the end. Hopefully I will have the motivation to do it. One big thing is that my son has been really excited to get this ever since I started working on it, and this has had a really long break on my needles now since I needed to figure out the pattern issue. So I am really eager to get it to him as quickly as possible, and I think it could be done by maybe like tomorrow if I keep working at this pace. I've done so much on the body just today. I think I have like 5 centimeters maybe left in stockinette, and then 6 centimeters of ribbing, and then the sleeves, and then just the zipper. So maybe not tomorrow, but at least the day after tomorrow. It should be doable. And I'm just so excited. I love a good zipper sweater, and we haven't had a fitting zipper sweater in my son's size for quite some time now. So, or he has the zipper sweater light, but a thick sweater is always a need. So I'm really excited about this. I also, when I got the yarn for this, got the yarn for another one for myself, which I'm also itching to cast on, but I have told myself that that needs to wait until like official sweater weather time around September. But here is the zipper sweater. So glad that I just ripped it all back and got it started again, because it feels so much better now. And even though I thought, and you would really think that ripping a sweater back when you've gotten to this point would be really demotivating, it has actually been the most motivating part of this whole thing, because when I started working it back up, I could see so kind of immediately that this would fit much better. Of course, it wasn't the biggest difference on the color, so that was our struggle to get through that. 16 centimeters of ribbing, but after that there is German short rows, which always is my favorite, and then after that I could see right away that this would be a much better fit. So I am so happy about this now and just itching to get it done. And then another thing I have done just a tiny little bit on this week, but that I'm hoping to be able to finish just for peace of mind, is this Anker sweater, or Anker blouse. It's super tiny, like see it next to my hand, it's the size of my hand, it's just super cute. This is in size 0 to 1 month. I had hoped to do it with just one skein of the blue, but no chance I was able to do that. Luckily I had the grey. Last week I had done basically all of this ribbing. I think I've done 2 more rows this week, and also tubular bind off. So that's all I've done on this week, but at least it's off the needles right now. There's no needles in it, and I just need to do sleeves. I am kind of figuring out what I want to do with those. It is looking quite cute as a t-shirt as well, and then I will have enough blue. But my main thought is that I'm going to divide the blue skein I have left in 2, and then knit as much of the sleeve as I can using that blue, and then I'll finish off with the grey, and hopefully I'll get almost all of the grey and all of the blue out of my stash doing that. This is my attempt at stash busting. I don't know why I started here when I wanted to stash bust, because all of this will be like 50 grams of yarn, but it is a really cute project and it has been fun, and it has, when I'm done with this, I will no longer have any of this yarn type left in my stash. So that's one way of stash busting, I guess, but having as much yarn as I have, I think I could have started with the larger quantities, but it is cute. This is the Ankers blouse by Petiteknit. I'm knitting it in the merino wool garn from Nille, which is just a like regular, it's not a yarn store here in Norway, it's just like a regular store. What would you call it? Grocery store. It's not a grocery store. I don't know what you would call it, but not a yarn store, so it isn't maybe the best quality, but it is merino wool and it is super wash. It's not super soft now, but I think it will get softer once it's washed. and the blue color is amazing. I do love a good blue. So only the sleeves left on this one, and it is looking really cute. So that's that one, not that much to say, didn't do that much. And then I have another kind of failed project that really stole a lot of my motivation this week, because I was so close, and that is the Augustins No. I have been working on this. I think this is my second week working on this, and I've gotten really far. I've done the top here, the neck, the yoke, the body, the skirt, finished, let me see, it's quite big, finished the I-cord and threaded that into here. This is the I-cord I was working on last week, when I started this, I thought I'm going to play yarn chicken. It was my friend that got yarn for this, and always when someone else has gotten the yarn and it's not the suggested yarn, I think it's quite scary, because I like to do the calculations myself, and I try to do them, and I've been a bit iffy about the yarn quantity ever since then. I didn't think it would be enough, but then I started working and started to feel so good about it. Oh, this doesn't take that much yarn. I've gotten so far without changing a skein, so I started to feel really good. But then this skirt took a lot of yarn, and then also the I-cord around the skirt and the I-cord in here, so I was starting to feel a bit more stressed, but I thought, no, it will be fine. I'll just have to get more yarn to do the ruffle around here. And then I started the sleeves, and I thought the sleeves would take so much less yarn than they actually have. And now this is also a mess with all of this different yarn, but I have knit the first sleeve to the point where you're supposed to do the I-cord and the ruffle on the sleeve. So there's not that much left on this sleeve, but since I was rapidly running out of yarn, I wanted to start on the second one before I finished, and this is how far I got on the second sleeve before I ran out of Merino Extra Fine. I do have some more Merino Extra Fine that's connected to this first sleeve here, so I will probably be using that to get to as similar of a length on both sleeves before I have to start working with new yarn, because the yarn for this sweater is multiple years old. It's been in my stash for 1.5 years. It was in my friend's stash for about a year before that, so there's like no chance we're going to get the same dye lot. So I want it to be as similar in length and as similar in everything as possible when I have to change dye lot. I think for the I-cord and the ruffle it would be okay and not that noticeable with a new dye lot, so I'm hoping to get to that point for both sleeves. I don't really think I'm going to get there, and then of course for the ruffle around here I've kind of known for a while that I would get new yarn, and I don't think a different dye lot will matter there either. But I have totally ran out of yarn, which was a really big bummer, because the only place where I can get yarn for this is where the friend I'm making this for lives. Of course I could order online, but since this is something I have already started on, I kind of want to see the yarn in person so I can see how big of a difference the dye lots are. And it was a birthday gift. I started this in late April because I thought, for once I'm going to make a deadline knit where I won't have to stress as much. I'm going to start while I still have loads of time, so I can stop, I can knit at my own pace, I can like do the whole thing without stressing. And I was doing so well because it was working up much quicker than I had anticipated. So if I hadn't had a issue with the yarn, it would have been done by this podcast, because then I would have been able to knit on it. It is almost a week since I ran out of yarn, so I was doing so well, and now not at all. Now I probably won't be able to go to that yarn store until her birthday or until the next time I go visit her, which I don't know when will be. So then I'll also have to have a huge project on my needles and like in my brain for much longer. I really like to finish the project so I can like free up mental space as well. So that was a bummer. I don't really know what to do. It is kind of affecting my motivation a bit because I was so ready to have it done and to make a deadline with time to spare, because I usually do make my deadlines, but it's usually just hours before the deadline or maybe one day if I'm lucky. So I was so excited to finish this with like almost a month to spare, and now that won't be happening anymore. So don't know how I feel about that or what to do. But I don't know. Maybe I'll have to take a trip there just to go to the yarn store. It is a couple of hours away from here. I think it's like 3 hours maybe, but it is somewhat close to where my sister lives, so I could go visit her and also try to go to that yarn store. Maybe my sister also has a yarn store close to her that carries the yarn. So that is where most of my motivation went out the door, and I just wanted to like stop thinking about all of my current projects and just dive into all of my new yarn. But I tried to be good and work on my other projects because I do know myself, and if I just keep casting on without having a plan, I get kind of overwhelmed because, as I said, all current projects and everything on my needles takes up mental energy for me. I can't just put it down and stop thinking about it. It's always there. So I try to not have too many things on my needles. So instead of just pitying myself and casting on something new, I did continue working on the other project I'd brought with me to travel, and that is the Dawn to Dusk Shacket. And this is a dream knit of mine, so I don't feel bad that I made myself continue working on this because I do have a lot of fun working on this. Sometimes it stresses me out a bit because I read ahead in the pattern and then I think, oh, this is something I don't know how to do. This will be a huge problem. I'll have to call someone, ask someone. I don't know how to do this. But then I try to remind myself that I should never read ahead in patterns. I know some people like to read ahead in patterns, but it does not work for me. I just confuse myself so much. The pattern doesn't really make sense to me before I am at that place, before I have the knitting in my hands, because I can't really translate the words into the movement and what I'm supposed to do just in my head. I have to like actually do it while I'm reading. So that stressed me out a bit with this week, both the increases, because those looked a bit different than what I'm used to, but I think they turned out really great. Of course, it's really hard to show how this is going to fit now because it's all stockinette, so all of the edges curl up, and I think it's a really long time until I'm going to be able to do the edges on this, since it is quite a long jacket or shacket. So the increases worried me a bit. I did also do the shoulders this week. I don't know if I'd started on the shoulder last week, but now I've done both of them. They're done. And then the thing I was the most worried about this week was connecting in the round, because the shoulders were really easy. So I started to read ahead because it looked really plain. So I thought, okay, now I can just read ahead because I know what to do. And then I read ahead and got to the body, and you're supposed to do some sort of detail under the arm. What's that called? Like under the armhole. You do some sort of detail, and the pattern is very well written. When I'm knitting, I'm not really like second guessing anything, but when I read ahead, I got so confused. I thought, no way am I going to be able to understand this. I tried so many times. I started Googling, like I stopped knitting to try to figure out how to do it. Started looking at pictures, and I was just so confused. But then I said to myself, try to remind myself to not read ahead, just drop it, knit. When you get to that point, we'll tackle it then. And when I got to connecting in the, I want to say connecting in the round, but that's not really right since I'm working back and forth. But when I connected all of the pieces, both the shoulders and the back yoke, and started working on the body, I started reading those instructions again, and again they didn't make sense. But when I got to the underarm and I said that I'm not going to try to like understand it in my head, I'm just going to do it for a couple of rows and see if I understand it then. And that's when it clicked. Sometimes I overthink things, sometimes I try too hard to understand it in my head instead of just in my fingers. But here the detail is, it looks really simple here, it looks like just purls and knits, but you do purl some stitches, knit some, and then you slip some and knit some and slip some and purl some. And I just didn't understand how that would work when you knit one side and purl one side. So this is how it looks on the purl side. Here it looks like just knits, but I just had to stop trying to understand it and just do it. And now I at least know how to do it. I think I've figured it out now, that it is like shifted by one stitch on the knit side and on the purl side, because I thought if I just slip one stitch the whole way down, that's not going to be as long as the rest of the knitting, which is knit. But since you slip it on one side and knit it on the other, that works out. I just had to stop reading and start doing, honestly. So this is my reminder to myself, and I don't know if that's true for you guys as well. I do know that some people and some pattern tells you to read the whole pattern before you start knitting, so you know how to do things before you get there. I just know that in my experience that does not help me. I need to not read the pattern at all, not read anything before I'm actually there, and that helps me much more. And then of course sometimes I have the problem that I don't read the pattern at all. I just think I know what I'm doing and then do that instead. But yeah, that is the Dawn to Dusk Shacket. It is growing. I did get a lot done this week because I didn't really get to work on my other projects as much as I'd planned. This is how much I got done in the body, and now I am almost running out of the Lima, so I'm trying to figure out if I think this is enough on the body to start working the sleeves, or if I want to do one more skein of Lima on the body before I start working the sleeves. I don't know, but I do know that I want to do the sleeves as soon as possible because it's easier to try on then, and I know there are some details on the sleeve as well that I'm not worried about them maybe, but I am really interested to see how I'm supposed to do it. And the more I knit on this and the more I get to the places in the pattern where I am kind of scared, like the piping, I was really scared I wasn't going to be able to understand that, and the detail on the body. And every time I get to one of those places in the pattern that I am more wary of or more scared I'm not going to be able to do, and every time I'm able to do those, that's such a big boost. And since there are so many of those in this project, it makes it really fun to work on. And of course the color is just everything. I'm so excited for this, can't wait until it's done so I get to wear it. But also I think I'm going to miss working on this because it is really challenging but really fun. It balances the challenging and fun perfectly. I never feel like it's too challenging except for when I read ahead. I really need to stop doing that. But yeah, I highly recommend the Dawn to Dusk Shacket. I am hosting a knit along for this right now if you want to join. There's no pressure in like starting at the same time, finishing at the same time. It's just for everyone else that's also scared of the Dawn to Dusk Shacket, like I was and still kinda am. like a support group for everyone knitting the Dawn to Dusk Shacket. But yeah, that is my update on the Dawn to Dusk, and I'm really excited to keep seeing this grow, and I am really excited to get an edge on at least one of these sides. If I get the sleeve in here, at least that side will stop rolling, and then I think I'll have to read a bit ahead to see when I can start, if I have to do the color after I've done the rest of the edging, or if I can do the color now, because that will help. But I don't know, I'll have to read and see, because I like to do all of the finishing touches as soon as I can, so it starts actually looking like something. But those are the ones of my active projects that I've actually been working on this week. I think I have like 3 other projects as well that I haven't worked on this week, so my needles are full. But I have started to plan ahead for summer. It is spring right now. It will probably be spring-like for quite some time, but summer here is short. I have made mistakes with that multiple times. I start doing summer knits when it's warmer, because I want to knit on the warm things while it's cold, and then it's warm, and then none of my summer knits gets done in time. So I have started to really plan now, and one thing I'm really excited for, and I've been really excited, and I've been really close to casting it on all throughout this spring as well, is the the Cumulus blouse by Petiteknit in these 2 yarns. This yarn is also extra special to me, because this is part of my wedding yarn. I used this yarn for my wedding dress, not the main part, but the mohair skirt and the mohair sleeves. And it will just always have a bit of a special place in my heart. And I do have the perfect amount of leftovers to make myself a Cumulus blouse, and that's been a plan of mine ever since I knew I would have these leftovers. And I just think it will be really special to be able to have part of my wedding yarn as a piece I can use in everyday life. And I have knit one of the Cumulus blouses before, but I didn't knit that in mohair, because my tolerance for mohair there and wasn't really it. I didn't like mohair next to skin, and I just opted away from mohair. But my tolerance now is better, and this yarn, as I said, is really special to me, so I really want to do that. And I think this color will be perfect for summer. I also thought it was perfect for winter, as I chose it for a winter wedding, and it did really suit the snow. But these light colors together as well, I think they'll be really great for summer. And Cumulus I also think is really great for summer, as it is a really lightweight, almost see-through, really, it's just really summery. I really like the O-neck version, so that's the one I'm going to do with these yarns, and I hope I'll be able to cast on as soon as possible. But I do need to get one of those large projects off my needles. I can't have 3 like adult size garments on my needles at once, and I already have one other actually adult size garment that I'm just not working on right now. So my needles needs to clear so I can start on my summer knits, because I have so many plans, and I have so many plans for myself, because my summer knits are really lacking. I have made summer knits before, but I have really struggled with finding my style when it comes to summer knits, both in colors and fits, and what actually gets used during our summers here. So I am really ready for this summer to be the summer where I figure out summer knits, and the summer where I really start both knitting and using my summer knits. And I think this will be a great start. So just had to talk about this, because I am so ready for summer, and I'm ready to do just about anything to manifest summer coming here. I have looked at the weather forecast, and it does look like we're at least not getting as bad weather in the coming week. I know while we were away visiting family, it actually snowed here, or like not properly snowed, but there was some snow in the air, so I'm ready for summer now, please. So yeah, that is everything. My knits right now, my plans, everything. I need to go through everything, try to figure out what to do with my sweater, figure out what to do with all of my new yarn. So I think while we wait for summer that I am going to spring clean all of my yarn, all of my projects, all of my knitted sweater, all of everything. So that's probably coming up really soon, but that's it for this podcast before I just ramble on way too much. But I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. That means the absolute world to me. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. Bye!